Welcome to The Critique. Today, we're looking at a listener's analysis of U.S. government shutdowns, the impacts, the finances, the human side. It's quite detailed.
It really is. Lots of good material in there.
So let's jump right into our feedback.
Okay. So, the first thing that struck me is while the material lays out all these specific consequences, across different sectors.
Yeah, it's very thorough on the what happens.
Right. But it feels like it needs to better synthesize why those things actually force a political resolution. It kind of documents the pain points.
As unfortunate facts, maybe, rather than like the levers that actually move things in D.C.
Exactly that. The weakness is not really weaponizing those excellent data points about hardship to explain, what finally breaks the gridlock.
Okay, so the suggestion here is to reframe those real-world costs more explicitly as immediate political leverage.
Precisely. Sharpen that crisis element by showing where the system really cracks under pressure.
Makes sense. What are some concrete examples of how to do that?
Well, take the military families point. The analysis notes the Coast Guard issue in 2018-19. They didn't get paid because they were under DHS, not DOD.
Right, that's a really stark contrast. And the piece mentions, I think, that over a quarter of enlisted families faced food insecurity in 2022, that specific vulnerability.
Yes, that's the kind of targeted human cost that becomes politically difficult to ignore, much more than just a general statement about hardship. Contrast it directly with the DOD funding status.
Got it. Human cost is leverage point one. What else?
Then there's the localized economic pain, instead of just the big, multi-billion GDP hit.
Which can feel a bit abstract sometimes.
Exactly. Focus it. Use that data point about personal consumption expenditures near government and military sites dropping $102.8 million in 2018-19.
And that meant a 2 percentage point hit specifically in D.C.'s economy.
Right there. That's tangible. It shows immediate damage in a very specific politically sensitive area. That's leverage point two.
Okay, so human cost, localized economics, is that enough to force Congress's hand?
Maybe not always on its own. That's where the third point comes in. Systemic anxiety. We need to bring in the financial markets more forcefully.
Uh-huh.
Don't just mention the $3 billion permanent GDP loss, which is, backward-looking. Talk about the immediate market reaction.
Like the S&P 500 dropping?
Yeah, it corrected by, 13% right before that 2018-19 shutdown really bit.
Okay.
Showing that kind of visible aversion from the broader financial system adds another layer of pressure. It says the uncertainty itself is damaging, systemically.
So human cost, local economic pain, and then broad financial market fear. That combination creates a much stronger narrative for why a resolution happens.
Exactly. It moves beyond just documenting impacts to explaining the actual mechanism of crisis resolution. That's the goal.
Okay, let's shift gears. The second area is agency preparedness. The piece correctly lays out the legal basis, the Anti-Deficiency Act exceptions.
Right. Safety of human life, protection of property.
And the OMB Circular A11 requirement for those contingency plans, the lapse plan summaries.
Yeah, the framework's clear, but I wonder, are we looking closely enough at the hidden costs and the sheer friction involved in just having and implementing those plans, even if a shutdown is short?
Interesting. So the weakness isn't that the plans don't exist, but that the analysis treats them like a smooth, stable solution.
Kind of, yeah. It implies preparedness without really digging into the administrative nightmare and the cost of the preparation itself. It's a costly burden on top of the crisis.
Okay, so the suggestion is to strengthen the critique by focusing on that administrative chaos. The financial friction caused by the planning, the employee classifications.
Yes, expose the illusion of preparedness. Show the collateral costs.
How do we make that concrete, though? Federal data on prep costs usually pretty scattered, isn't it?
It is hard to pin down federally, but we can shift the argument. It's not just lost GDP, it's wasted administrative effort.
And we can use analogies.
Like state governments.
Exactly. Look at Minnesota in 2011. They estimated their preparation costs $6.2 million, just identifying critical services, sending layoff notices.
Wow, millions spent just getting ready for something that might not even happen or might be over quickly.
Right. Suggest quantifying that at the federal level, even if estimated. Focus on the non-recoverable costs of simply managing the potential shutdown. Issuing furlough notices isn't free.
Good point. What else adds to this administrative chaos?
Well, look at the accepted employees, the ones who have to work. The OPM guidance is brutal.
How so?
It states that a lapse in appropriations actually cancels any previously approved paid time off for those accepted employees. So if you had a vacation planned and paid for, and you're deemed accepted, tough luck, you're furloughed for that time instead?
Basically, yes. It forces them into furlough status for that planned leave. Think about the personal disruption, the financial hit, the morale impact.
Yeah, that shows how even the framework meant to keep essential services running creates its own form of distress. That definitely bolsters the critique.
Absolutely. And then there are the private partners, the contractors.
Ah, the stop work orders.
Exactly. They can request equitable adjustments later for their costs, things like idle facilities, unabsorbed overhead.
And there were thousands of those orders, right? Like over 10,000 in the 2013 shutdown?
That's the number. So that proves the costs ripple out way beyond the government's direct payroll or operations. It creates future liabilities.
Okay, so the administrative burden isn't just internal paperwork. It's canceled leave for employees and real costs passed on from contractors. It paints a much messier picture than just agencies have plans.
Precisely. It's a cost center, not really a clean mitigation strategy.
Got it. Okay, third major point. This connects to the avoidance tactics, specifically continuing resolutions, CRs. The piece rightly points out Congress struggles to pass the actual appropriations bills.
Yeah, that's well established. But again, I think we can push the analysis further. Is avoiding a shutdown with CRs actually solving the problem, or is it its own kind of chronic damage?
You mean the reliance on CRs itself is a separate, significant economic drag?
That's the idea. The weakness here is maybe treating CRs just as a way to delay a shutdown, rather than analyzing them as a self-inflicted wound that hurts government effectiveness and raises costs constantly, even when we don't have a full shutdown.
Okay, so the suggestion is restructure this bit. Argue that frequent CRs make the whole budget process inefficient, turning it from a planning tool into, well, a source of constant fiscal inefficiency.
Yeah, it's not strategic planning anymore. It's just reactive, short-term patching.
What are the concrete examples of that damage? How does operating under CRs actually hurt?
Well, think about contracts. Agencies can't commit to long-term deals. They have to break up maintenance, support, everything into these shorter, more labor-consuming pieces.
Which probably costs more in the long run.
Almost certainly. And contracting officers are always rushing against the next CR deadline, with funding uncertainty. They can't focus effectively on getting the best price or the best quality.
That makes sense. It creates constant friction in procurement.
Huge friction. And then there's the execution bottleneck. This is critical.
What do you mean by bottleneck?
Okay, so say Congress finally passes a full-year appropriation, but it's like 6 months into the fiscal year already.
Which happens a lot.
Way too often. Then agencies have to wait for OMB to apportion the funds. By the time they get the money and the green light, there might only be 3 or 4 months left in the fiscal year to actually spend it.
Okay.
And crucially, under CRs, there's generally that prohibition on new starts.
Right. Agencies can't kick off new programs or initiatives.
So combine that tight execution window with the no new starts rule. It makes it incredibly difficult to hire people effectively, launch important new projects, or adapt to changing needs. You're basically paralyzed for half the year, and then end a mad dash for the other half.
That really paints a picture of operational paralysis. It's not just inconvenient. It fundamentally undermines the government's ability to function strategically.
Exactly. And this isn't a rare occurrence. We need to stress the frequency. The GAO reported, 47 CRs between fiscal 2010 and 2022?
47 in 12 years? Wow.
Yeah. It proves this isn't just an occasional fallback. It's become the default operating mode. It's a persistent structural flaw, a chronic condition causing its own major economic damage.
So the reliance on CRs isn't a solution. It's part of the problem, ensuring long-term inefficiency whether or not a big shutdown happens.
That's the argument to make? Frame CRs is this silent, systemic cost of the underlying gridlock.
Okay, this has been really productive. Let's quickly recap the main suggestions. First, synthesize those specific shutdown impacts, the human stories like the Coast Guard, the localized economic pain in DC, the market jitters, into a stronger narrative about how they create political leverage to end the crisis.
Right. Second, challenge that idea of smooth agency preparedness. Focus instead on the messy reality, the costly administrative burden of planning, the canceled leave for accepted workers, the ripple effects on contractors. Show the friction.
And third, analyze continuing resolutions not just as a delay tactic, but as a chronic problem in themselves. Show how they create long-term inefficiency through fragmented contracting and those execution bottlenecks, even when a full shutdown is avoided.
Exactly. Making these shifts should take the analysis from being a very strong factual report, which it is, to an even sharper, more focused policy critique. Really maximize the impact for the reader by explaining the why and the hidden costs more effectively.
Excellent. These refinements should significantly enhance the piece's overall insight.
We genuinely think so. And as always, we'd love to see the revised version when you're ready. Please feel free to send your updated work back our way for another look.